We have something different tonight. We have something different actually altogether here in a YouTube film. What we have is I'm going to present you this car. This car we basically inherited and now we want to sell it. We're going to sell it. It is a collector car. It is, what we're talking about is a 1968 Camaro RS Rally Sport. It has been in the family for a long time. It was purchased by my brother-in-law in 1971. He's the second owner. So he has this car since that time. It's now 2023, so imagine how long he had that car. He strictly used this car for street racing. That's really what he used it for, and then car shows. So it didn't really, never got a lot of mileage because it was more like always a show car. So that's what I'm going to present to you tonight, is this car. I'm trying to do this as complete as possible. We had acquired this car, we brought it here to the shop and we worked on it, and now it's ready. So that's what we're presenting to you now. Charles's Camaro. Going to the machine shop. So some of the details of this car: it has a 327 engine in it, a 327 small block, which code number says it's 3858180. That's listed as a small block V8. Castings are made in 1964 to 1967. 2-bolt main. That's what the crank is. So that is what I know about the engine. It was a correct engine for a Camaro RS. Is listed as on the 3858180. It is stock 250 horsepower, but you can tweak that up to 300 horsepower. So that's what I know about the engine. Now I can go talk about the transmission. The transmission is a 4-speed Muncie. It's an M20, as the code is given M2, and I believe the zero is very vaguely is half not there. There's another code on there which gives more the date when the transmission is made, but it's a short gear ratio, so it's very close. So that's what I know about the 4-speed Muncie. It has a Hirsch shifter in it, on it. And then I can talk about the rear axle, which is the other thing. Rear axle code name is BU1212C1. And if I translate it, it's a 12-bolt rear axle, 373 posse track. So 373 posse traction. That's what the rear axle is. Other things I can see here: 12-volt rear end. Okay, the transmission was built December 1968. That is the Munchie. Yeah, so that's some of the details here.
What are you doing, Yas?
I'm taking the dust off the black bear. Charles is quite enjoying it. There's some kitty prints on it, and there's a major pile of dust on it that hasn't taken off probably about 20 or 30 years. I say so because it's always been stored in the garage, and yes, it was undercover, but it never was really washed in a long time. So we're going to give it a really nice soft scrubbing. car came here to the shop, we had some issues with it. I took it for a test drive and noticed it had no brakes. So after long periods of time of sitting, we believe it sit at least unused for 16 years. We don't know if it had been started. So we felt it has been a long time that that car wasn't used. So the brakes started to leak. The master cylinder and the brake calipers in the front were all leaking when we got the car here, so there was no brakes. So I purchased new brake calipers and a new factory correct master cylinder. There was a master cylinder in there that wasn't factory correct anyway, so it was good that we replaced it. So that's what we had to do too. Here's the brake caliper. Yeah, let me see here. So I just installed the master cylinder here. I put these back on. They were in this exact same position as from the other cylinder. The bolts were good over there to mount it. This is a lower profile master cylinder. The other one was not factory. It was actually almost touching the hood. I believe it was touching the hood right there. See, that is a little dent from the master cylinder touching the hood. This one is factory. This one will not do that. So this was a success. She said it's nice. I just got to clean that drip off because that was the former master cylinder. It was leaking right there, brake fluid, and now of course that takes the paint off. So I'll clean that up and see if I can touch that up a bit. So besides the brake issues, we had two decorative things that needed some attention, and it was a piece of trim on the bottom of the rocker panel that had a slight bend in it, and we needed to straighten that. And one door crank, a window crank on the driver's side, the knob was worn off. So, and it was an original door crank, so I repaired it. I didn't replace it, but I repaired it. And you'll see it in this movie. Enjoy. Interesting, to get this piece of trim off, you have to go up. That means this piece of trim has to come off because this is stopping it from coming off. I had to open the door to make it come off, so the door is slightly open. But also, it won't come off here because this piece of trim has to come off. So this screw has to come off, and there is a screw in here, there. I gotta take out, and probably there at the inside of the door at the same time. Same spot there and the inside. So that's what we're gonna do. We removed that piece of trim of the Camaro. Let's see what's going on here.
I have it here on my table. Look at this bend. But I can get this perfect because there's no really kink in there. So we're gonna make a wooden mandrel and hammer this straight using strictly wood to touch this piece. Stay posted and see how I make out, because I'll get this kink out. It will look like new. So out of a piece of hardwood, I made a shape that should put this piece of trim back in. So if I put it in the track here, there, I can guide and use a soft mallet on this wood and then see if I can get this kink out. So that is my attempt. So played with it a bit now and made this piece of wood, and I made this a round edge because it had to go inside the trim, and I use it as this to go in the groove to get that kink out in the middle. So I did that and I went along. So I made this round, sanded it round so it's nice to curve. And of course this piece I used, and eventually this broke off. But I could still use it by putting this inside the track and then use this piece and hammered in there, so like that. And that one was successful. So I've got the trim as good as I can get it. I think I got the whole kink out, so watch. That is pretty good. That's the bottom part, sorry. This is the top part. This is what you would see. But if you look at it too, I got it almost as good as new. There. I'm pretty happy with it, so leave it like that and put it back on the car. Got it finished. I put the trim right back on. So I'll just take you along what it looks like, and we can see what the damaged area look like. So there. I'm pretty happy with it. It's pretty good. Success! So I got this thing done. Looks pretty good. This is ready. I think that's going to work. This handle with the knob missing, that's the window crank. And we managed to take the clip off. So we have the clip, and that clip is right here. That is the clip. It's like a spring clip. See? It's a spring clip. So that came off the door handle, so now I can pull this handle off. Also found the original knob that belongs on there. So I'm gonna make this to work. So The spring clip is off, so I should be able to pull this right off. And there is a plastic slip bearing there, so you don't damage the liner of the door panel. So that is what we're going to work on. We're going to see if we can fix this. I just finished it. I can rotate it now, so I just made some washers in behind here, so the ball has some stability, the knob. And I put a self-tapping bolt there, and I drilled a hole in the middle of the knob, put a couple of washers in there, and then tighten it in such a way that it looks authentic. And from the outside, what you see, you can't see anything wrong. It looks pretty original.
And with the sale of this car comes the history report of this car, any liens or how many owners it had, and an appraisal report. We have an appraisal report on this car. So that's what the buyer gets.
So this is the battery here. I just have it hooked up. I put a battery in there, and that part sits loose on the top. That's a bar. There is one here, they're chromed. So fuel is in the fuel ball here, the filter. So that goes to the carburetor, because I already started a few turns to see if the fuel pump would fill up the carburetor. So I think she's gonna start.